and Cormac, the character of Cormac, our bad guy, our villain, is kind of out of his mind by that episode. So it's meant to be this explosion of action, fun, sound, visual, everything. It's all exploding in episode 3.
A great person.
Yeah, it depends on where you are. They go Jana. Well, actually, I have the same name as somebody at Peacock too. It's either Jana, or Jana. Like, it depends on where you are in the world.
No, I use Jana because my name is Janaína, which is very Brazilian, but nobody can say my name, so I use Jana. So
there you go, works.
So it's easier. Oh my God, Albert, thank you so much for your time. Pleasure to talk to you, and congratulations on this project, the Continental. You direct part 1, part 3. So I'm gonna start let's go straight to part 3. What you can expect of the part 3?
Did you see it?
I saw it, but I don't want to spoil because I just want people to see it. I saw it.
Well, as our showrunner and writer Kirk Ward said, he goes, it's the premise of the promise, or promise of the premise of the premise. So it's slowly building to, everybody knows, even in the marketing materials, it's building to a takeover.
Yeah.
So the show to me is about having fun and being a bit wild and irreverent and funny in moments, dramatic in other moments, but it completely takes a right turn on episode 3. It just goes kind of balls to the wall, and Cormac, the character of Cormac, our bad guy, our villain, is kind of out of his mind by that episode. So it's meant to be this explosion of action, fun, sound, visual, everything. It's all exploding in episode 3, and all the questions kind of get answered, and some mysteries are left there not to be answered.
Yeah, because I wanna. Can you continue with part 4, 5, 6? Because it's so good. It's really
good. Could. They haven't told me yet.
Yeah. Okay. Let's throw in the universe. So
there you go.
Yes. So how excited for you to be part of this amazing, it's a prequel, this franchise. So what was for you to be part of that, and how was it for you to bring a New York City on the 70s?
Well, I think that was the big draw for me, is that I would never want to do a modern day spinoff, because that's what Chad Stahelski and Keanu are here for, and they do it well. I love that it was taking place 40 years before, in a decade I was born in, that I can draw musical influence, movie influences, flavor influences of different ethnic backgrounds, because it's New York, and you're able to actually display what New York and America promises to be, this kind of a diverse melting pot, and you explore it through these interesting characters that hopefully the audience will follow. So that to me was the big turn on, and knowing that it was in a different time and place, and they wanted it filmmaker driven. So that means I can explore the things that I'm interested in, because Chad Stahelski would tell me what his influences were, and he goes, well, what are yours? And I talk about the music, the movies. He's like, okay, well, do what excites you. Here's what excites me. Bob Fosse movies and musicals and Hong Kong cinema, which we share in common. We both love John Woo. So that was pretty easy to buy into.
Yeah, I love that you work in different projects before, and now you can see another side of you, involved in this.
Well, it's freedom.
In the Continental. I love that. Yeah, I love that.
What do you call it? It's it feels like it's what's the word for it? I didn't feel any constraints. Other projects, because of the material, is really heavy, or the circumstance you're in, whether you're with a producer or studios, it could be alchemy problems or good problems, But this world creates this thing where you have a freedom to express in so many ways, because there are no real rules to how you make it. There may be rules inside the world of John Wick, but how you make it, there's no rules.
Exactly. So you mentioned about the music. The soundtrack is amazing. How do you decide which soundtrack you're going to use in certain scenes? Because without the music, that scene is not going to be perfect. You know what I mean? Because I think music is also a character. So that's why
it's something I've dealt with my whole career, but it's mostly been the fantastic Black music, And this one I was able to explore classic rock and punk and in other genres like disco that I love. And what my brother and I would generally do, and I did on this one, is you collect a list of music, you put it in a playlist. This one was 10.5 hours long, and you give it to the cast and crew and the editors. Some of them are placed very early. We think they're going to work. Some you find out are not going to work at all. You can be dead wrong. And sometimes it's Kirk Ward that has an idea, but mostly it's coming from that list. And sometimes it's the music supervisor who has to give me a backup because the estate of the Cars wouldn't let the Good Times roll, So I have to replace that song, which was perfect for the scene, but they wouldn't let us use it. And but in the end, it's rare that this happens. The studio and the network completely were behind all the music. Even when you have Final Cut and you have a great big budget, a studio is always like, you sure you need that? They understood it was a part of the character of the show. So it was very refreshing for the first time in 32 years that a studio or network has not caused any pushback on that. They actually understood it very early on.
That's great. And so we're gonna be watching. Everybody's gonna be watching the part 3 soon. But what was like the biggest challenge for you, like in developing all this, the music, the cast, the stunts,
you mean
the guns,
all of it, or just part 3?
No, in everything, in the whole project.
Oh, I would say it's the usual challenges, but the obvious one is you're in the 1970s and everything has to be converted to a period look, period clothes, period cars. I've only had one movie I've done that took place in the current day, and that's my first movie. Everything's been the past or the future. So the most difficult thing is props, wardrobe, production design, and background. If you look down that street, all those cars have to be. It had nothing to do with fights or action or design or story. No, that stuff is actually quite a given, and you hope for the best in the end. You hope that people believe the story and believe the actors, and you run into the same challenges on every project. You don't run into 1970s New York on every project. In Hungary, yeah.
Exactly. So you mentioned part 3. Anything in particular in part 3 that was more challenging?
I think the challenge of part 3 was the script was still wet. It wasn't finished when we were doing part 1 and 2, and we all weren't that familiar with it. So you're shooting in all these hallways, all these actions, like, where are we? What happened before this? What happens after this? And the big surprise was when it was finished, we didn't owe an insert shot or a reshoot, which generally happens on every project. Not one insert shot or reshoot was required for 3. 1 and 2, we had to fix things and reshoot things, which is quite normal. But it showed that the crew and the cast were pretty well oiled by 3. They knew what they were doing, even though we had a script that we all weren't totally familiar with. It was really fun because we, for lack of a better description, we had to pull things out of our ass sometimes, and hope it worked.
Amazing. Albert, I just want to thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to meet you, and a lot of success. And I hope you have part 4, 5, 6, 7.
Hey, you call the studio. Thank you.
I will. I'll send an email to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. If you like this video, don't forget to comment, to like, and subscribe to our channel right here.